Good morning and welcome. Today we're celebrating the 10,000 excellent scientists who've received a grant from the European Research Council. We'll be hearing from some of them in just a moment, and stay tuned to discover the ERC's 10,000th grantee. The ERC has won political recognition at the highest levels as a true European success story, and we're delighted that our programme today includes contributions from senior representatives of the EU institutions. And we'd like to involve you, our online audience, in the celebrations too, so follow us on Twitter and post your comments using the hashtag ERC10K Grantees. We'll be catching up with the online conversation during the ceremony, so please start off by letting us know where you're connecting from today. But now I'd like to invite Professor Jean-Pierre Bourguignon, President of the European Research Council, to say a few words of welcome on behalf of the ERC. Bonjour Jean-Pierre, c'est à vous.
Thank you, Tony. It is indeed my great pleasure to welcome you all wherever you are across Europe or around the world. Today, we'll be celebrating people. First, the early pioneers of the ERC, some of them scientists, of course, but also politicians, such as the late Minister Mariano Gago or Minister Lord Sainsbury, commissioners such as Philippe Busquin, and the founders of ERC, such as the late Professor Fotis Kafatos. We owe a lot to them because to make the ERC a reality was a long and big battle that requested to bring together many different people. At the heart of this celebration are, of course, the ERC grantees, bright scientists and scholars who got their most ambitious ideas funded by this European program. Many of them are with us today, and we thank them for that. Without you, frontier science in Europe would not be what it is now. You know very well that the ERC's DNA is to respect fully your vision embodied in your project and the modus operandi you propose to fulfill it. We're honored that many very distinguished leaders join us for this event. To introduce them, I hand over to Tony. Let's celebrate science.
Merci Jean-Pierre. Thank you, Professor Bourguignon. Just a reminder to our online audience that our event hashtag today is ERC10K Grantees. And let's have a quick look at some of the action from social media. We've recently been running a few polls on Twitter, and one of the questions we asked is how many nationalities are represented by ERC-funded researchers? And you can see the answer here on the screenshot from social media. You can see that the ERC really is open to the world, 85 different nationalities amongst our ERC grantees. So well done to all of you who got the right answer to that question. But now I'd like to introduce the President of the European Parliament, David Sassoli, who has been kind enough to pre-record a video message, especially for today's event.
Signora Presidente della Commissione Europea Ursula von der Leyen, signor Presidente del Centro Europeo di Ricerca Jean-Pierre Bourguignon, gentile Commissaria Maria Gabriel, Ministro Manuel Aitor, signore e signori ricercatori, sono molto lieto di partecipare a questa cerimonia che celebrerà oggi i 10.000 ricercatori che hanno preso parte a questo concorso. Celebrare i progressi e i risultati della ricerca scientifica oggi è quanto mai importante e ne siamo consapevoli oggi più che mai alla luce del momento difficile che stiamo attraversando. Vi ringrazio di cuore per il vostro contributo, vorrei congratularmi in particolare con la ricercatrice o il ricercatore vincitore di questo concorso e sottolineare gli sforzi e il lavoro del Consiglio Europeo della Ricerca, una delle più grandi storie di successo della politica europea in materia di ricerca e innovazione. Signore e signori, la pandemia del Covid-19 ha dimostrato chiaramente che la ricerca e l'innovazione sono il motore per la nostra ripresa. L'Unione Europea ha il dovere di guidare la doppia sfida di una transizione verde e digitale, associata agli obiettivi di una ripresa resiliente attraverso uno spazio europeo della ricerca che sia dinamico e che disponga di maggiori risorse finanziarie. La crisi sanitaria, economica e sociale che che stiamo attraversando ha amplificato il valore della ricerca di base, la necessità di collaborazione interdisciplinare e l'investimento in politiche orientate al futuro. Per più di 20 anni il Parlamento europeo ha difeso un'ambiziosa politica per la ricerca europea, sostenendo la necessità di un cospicuo aumento dei bilanci globali di ricerca per mantenere e rafforzare la competitività europea in questa materia. Riconoscere l'eccellenza scientifica dei ricercatori europei è fondamentale per influenzare e orientare il peso delle politiche future, così come di strategie migliori per affermarci come attore globale. Lo abbiamo dimostrato, difendendo strenuamente il rafforzamento del bilancio di Horizon Europe, votato a larga maggioranza la settimana scorsa e che avrà un bilancio di circa 95 miliardi e mezzo di euro per il periodo 21-27. Grazie alle richieste del Parlamento, 1 miliardo di euro dei 4 miliardi previsti come rinforzo supplementare andrà proprio al CER, che permette ai ricercatori di tradurre le loro ambizioni in progetti di ricerca concreti. Quest'anno quasi 2 miliardi di euro saranno messi a disposizione di circa 1.000 ricercatori e questo è un vero successo. Ci tengo a sottolineare che per la prima volta nella sua storia il Parlamento europeo è riuscito a modificare gli importi decisi dal Consiglio europeo nell'ambito del quadro finanziario pluriannuale e sono orgoglioso che questo aumento andrà alla ricerca generale, alla creatività, alla libera immaginazione dei nostri ricercatori d'eccellenza. Senza la ricerca non avremmo potuto scoprire il vaccino mRNA, di cui abbiamo tanto bisogno oggi. E senza il lavoro di migliaia di ricercatori finanziati dal CERN non avremmo fatto progressi in svariati campi come la lotta contro il cancro, l'intelligenza artificiale, il contrasto al cambiamento climatico. La ricerca scientifica è il cuore dello sviluppo economico e naturalmente abbiamo bisogno di investire sulla ricerca per un futuro migliore per le prossime generazioni. Parlando del futuro, vorrei sottolineare l'importanza della conferenza sul futuro dell'Europa che si propone di adottare un approccio simile al vostro, dal basso verso l'alto, per coinvolgere il maggior numero di cittadini alla vita democratica delle nostre istituzioni. Ora più che mai in questo periodo di cambiamenti senza precedenti i cittadini si aspettano un'Unione Europea più democratica, più coerente, più efficiente, capace di affrontare le sfide che il futuro ci proporrà. Per questo è essenziale far partecipare i nostri cittadini, i nostri giovani, chiedere il contributo dei nostri talenti, perché abbiamo bisogno di idee nuove, di approcci differenti che siano in grado di aiutarci a plasmare il futuro, cioè domani.
Grazie, Presidente Sassoli. Before we go ahead and listen to a special message from the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, let's take another quick look at the social media conversation. Now, today is all about ERC grantees, all 10,000 of them, but they rarely work alone. They have teams of postdoctoral fellows, PhD students, and other research staff. And as you can see, we asked you on Twitter to estimate the size of this wider group of researchers that the ERC supports. You almost got it right. There have been some 75,000 members of ERC teams working hard with our 10,000 grantees so far. So again, congratulations to all of you who voted in that poll and got the right answer. And please do continue interacting with us and sharing your stories using the ERC 10K grantees hashtag. But now, let's hear the video message recorded specially for this event this morning by Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission.
Merci, Président Bourguignon. Thank you, President Sassoli. Today we celebrate 10,000 stories of ingenuity, hard work, and endurance. We celebrate people who have pushed the boundaries of human knowledge a bit further. And we celebrate the institution that put trust in them, giving them the possibility to try, to innovate, to discover something new. This is why the European Research Council was created 14 years ago, to give European scientists the freedom to explore the frontiers of knowledge. This is the foundation of human progress. Everyone knows the story of Newton's apple, but after he saw an apple falling from a tree, it took Newton over 10 years to first publish his theory. So, science takes time, dedication, and yes, it needs resources. Let me borrow the words of Professor Ur Sahin. I believe you all know his name. He is the founder of BioNTech, who, together with his wife Özlem Türeci, developed the first mRNA vaccine against COVID. And he, too, is a grantee of the European Research Council. Professor Sahin recently said, and I quote, "The success of an idea is rarely based on a single discovery, but on long-term persistence and financial support of early pioneers believing in a vision." End of quote. This is the mission of the European Research Council. It provides researchers with the time, the trust, and the resources they need so they can turn their intuitions into scientific breakthroughs. And for this reason, 2/3 of ERC grants have been awarded to early-stage researchers. 45,000 PhD students and postdocs worked on projects financed by the European Research Council. It's a new generation of scientists, and it is made in Europe. And at the same time, support from the European Research Council has led to groundbreaking discoveries. The list of achievements by ERC grantees is simply stunning. 7 Nobel Prizes. The first real image of a black hole. The concept of planetary boundaries, which is crucial to our understanding of climate change. And I could continue. This kind of innovation will be even more necessary in the years ahead. We need the help of science to address the great challenges of our times, from climate change to mastering the digital age to fighting pandemics. Thus, I am proud that the new European budget includes 16 billion euros for the European Research Council. This is unprecedented, and we had to fight for it. But these resources can make a huge difference for European researchers. Today, we announce the 10,000th grant from ERC. It took 14 years to get there. Now, with the new funding, we could finance another 10,000 grants already in the next 7 years. So we are going twice as fast as in the past. Europe believes in science, and we believe in our researchers. So congratulations to the 10,000th grantee and to the European Research Council for 10,000 stories of scientific excellence and many more to come. Many thanks and congratulations again.
Vielen Dank, Präsidentin von der Leyen. Let me turn back to social media for a moment. In another poll, we asked you to estimate how many scientific publications have been produced by ERC grantees until now. And the answer is a staggering 200,000 scientific papers and counting. And it's worth mentioning that several thousands of these are among the top 1% most cited scientific publications globally. In addition to pushing the boundaries of scientific knowledge, the discoveries made by ERC grantees are also driving innovation. And in another poll, we asked you to estimate how many patents or intellectual property rights applications had been made by ERC grantees. The correct answer is an estimated 2,210 patents and IP applications. So now, let's hear a video message from the representative of the Portuguese presidency, Manuel Heitor, Minister for Science, technology and higher education of Portugal.
Over the last decade, we in Europe can be proud of many initiatives and attributes, but there is one which has been particularly important, was the establishment of the European Research Council. Many of us do remember the discussion since 2004 when an high-level group launched the idea of more scientists for Europe. And 3 years after that, we have been able, as European citizens, to approve in the Parliament, in the Council and in the Commission, the setting up of the European Research Council. Today, when we have at least 10,000 grantees by DRC, the change throughout Europe is enormous in terms of scientific publications, in terms of new ideas for research. Probably one of the most well-known recent facts in recent months was the vaccine which was created in Europe through BioNTech, which was also the results of an effort through the European Research Council. So more and more we understand the value of ERC to provide to the best talent in Europe, to attract the best talent to Europe, to do curiosity-driven research in any area of knowledge. And this should be kept like that. It is in this context that we need to understand that through Horizon Europe is so important to continue deepening the founding principles of the European Research Council and continue this path of development over the last decade so that by 2027 we can even more strengthening the idea of fundamental research through curiosity-driven research. Nevertheless, there are probably 3 issues which we need to consider step by step, always keeping in mind the independent assessments of research ideas. Certainly one is widen access to excellence. Excellence is everywhere. We need to widen up access. We understand that 70% of ERC grantees are concentrated in 6 European member states. And this is also a process over the time which requires time. The second is gender inequality. We still need to understand that about 30% of ERC grantees are women. And again, access to women and men, but also gender equality should always be in our minds as a stepwise process, because we know that in many countries, actually like Portugal, women do represent more than 50% of the research base, but they do not access to the top of their career. And this again is an issue which should be in our minds. Last but not least, I would like very much to emphasize the need to evolve from a temporary basis to the development of research careers and to real convince stakeholders throughout Europe, scientific institutions, academic institutions and universities in particular, but also other type of stakeholders, that we need to open access to research careers in Europe at large. Certainly, DRC was a critical step in that direction, providing contracts usually until 7 years. And in many institutions, those contracts have led to research careers, but we know that in some areas of research that did not happen. At large, Europe continues to need more scientists. And to have more scientists, we need to have also better research careers and definitely learn out of the implementation of ERC, certainly in a diversified way throughout Europe. How can we improve all the time the European landscape for research, for fundamental research, always coupled with the entrepreneurial attitude to make research a value in itself, but also a value to increase the quality of life in Europe. Thank you very much.
Muito obrigado, Senhor Ministro Manuel Heitor. I'm happy now to welcome our first live guest this morning, Dr. Cristian Buzoi, Member of the European Parliament and Chair of the Committee on Industry, Research and Energy. Good morning, Mr. Buzoi. Thank you so much for joining us live. The floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. And I'm very happy and honored to be here with you today to celebrate together this extraordinary achievement. I'd like to thank Professor Bourguignon for the invitation to participate to this high-level event the ERC is organizing in honor of the 10,000 ERC-funded scientists. I would also like to congratulate Professor Bourguignon for all his work and efforts for the European Research Council, and of course Commissioner Gabriel for the extraordinary involvement in supporting European Research Council and for this important milestone. Today we'll demonstrate that the Union will enable 10,000 top scientists to turn their most daring ideas into scientific breakthroughs and innovation. It is not an overstatement to say that the prosperity of Europe's future, whether in social, economic or health terms, depends on research and innovation. We also need research and innovation to adapt to our globalized world and to prepare a better and greener future for our next generation. The COVID-19 pandemic had clearly demonstrated that innovation and research can be a driver for our recovery, and that we rely on research and innovation to become resilient for future crises. How research gets funded makes a big difference because it affects the scientific environment, the very dynamics that exist in laboratories, including work conditions and standards, and ultimately the progress of science and research. We all know that the EU environment is often more difficult for a researcher to develop a career, to achieve recognition and to secure funding to carry out his or her own research, in particular for young researchers. And the situation is very unequal between member states inside the European Union. And it is true also that at the world level, our competitors, US and unfortunately more and more China, are still in lead and invested massively in research and science compared to the Union. But with Horizon Europe, the most ambitious framework program for research and innovation over the last 30 years, and the biggest public-funded program in the world, the momentum for the Union to boost investments into science is now. And we in the European Parliament, as President Sassoli just stated, and especially in the Industry, Research and Energy Committee that I'm chairing, we supported a lot Horizon Europe and its ambitious goals and also its budget. The creation of European Research Council in 2007 as the first simple science-driven funding mechanism at EU level, functioning in the least bureaucratic way, was a very important step to raise the attractiveness of the European research system and at the same time have an enormous added value. Moreover, with the improved structure of the ERC under Horizon Europe and the support of both the Commission and European Parliament, especially within the ITRE committee, the committee that I represent today, younger researchers will receive the boost to develop their most ambitious projects on the basis of scientific excellence. At the same time, I am positive our scientists and researchers will produce the very best cutting-edge science in new and rapidly emerging fields confronting our society today and tomorrow, and will innovate our transition towards 2050, nurturing science-based industrial solutions and create a greater impetus for research-based spin-offs. By challenging resources to the 10,000 researchers selected for the first time through a truly pan-European competition on the basis of their best ideas, promoting scientific excellence, the ERC will have a very high impact and will bring change in the scientific paradigm in the Union. Last but not least, I would like to congratulate all the participants to show my appreciation and the appreciation of my colleagues from European Parliament and ITRE Committee for their hard work and trust them with finding solutions for our future. We rely a lot on their ideas, talent, and genius. Once again, my full appreciation to Commissioner Maria Gabriel and a special thank and appreciation for Professor Bourguignon once more. And I'd like to reassure him of all the political support from the ITRE Committee in his and ERC endeavors. Greatest success to all. Thank you so much.
Mulțumesc, Dr. Buzoi. Thank you again so much for joining us this morning. Now, the European research landscape has evolved significantly over the last couple of decades, and the ERC is very proud to have contributed to this evolution. Among the more than 10,000 projects we have funded, the ERC's Scientific Council has selected 15, which shows some of the ways our grantees have transformed different fields of science. These projects show how scientific research has pushed the frontiers of knowledge, made groundbreaking discoveries, inspired new lines of research, and challenged accepted views. They also reflect the positive impact the ERC has been able to make on researchers' careers, as well as the lives of Europe's citizens. So let's get a quick glimpse of these 15 ways the ERC has transformed science. You can find podcasts, written interviews, and other material concerning these 15 projects on the ERC website. But now let's meet 3 of the grantees who feature in this series. I'm really delighted that we're joined live this morning by Caterina Duca, Ulo Nienemets, and Roberto Navilli. Good morning to the 3 of you.
Hi, Tony.
Hi, thanks so much for joining us live. Caterina, you're normally based in Germany, but you're joining from the UK this morning, I think, and Roberto from Italy and Ulo from Estonia. Great that you could be with us. Caterina, let me start with you, if I may. You're an archaeological scientist based at the Max Planck Institute for the Science of Human History in Germany. Now, for some people, your research into archaeology and human history might seem somewhat remote, but I believe you've discovered interesting links between our distant ancestry and today's public health crisis. So can you tell us a bit more about that?
Sure. So hi, Tony and everyone, and thank you for the question. Often people ask us why studying the past is relevant to our world today and the problems we face as a humanity and a planet. Well, in my ERC-funded project, we use lab-based methods to discover new fossils of ancient humans that lived in Eurasia as late as 50,000 years ago, but who are now extinct. The most well-known of these groups are the Neanderthals, of course, and you would have heard of them. The new fossils that we discover provide us with fascinating insights into how we became who we are today, effectively the only humans on the planet, the only species, human species. We know now that as our species left Africa, we interbred with our archaic cousins living outside of the continent. And in fact, most people living outside Africa today carry DNA from these extinct human groups, in some cases as much as 67%. And it turns out that these interbreeding events not only enriched our gene pool, but had and continue having important implications on how we successfully adapted to our environment. Without archaic DNA, for example, Tibetans would not be able to live and reproduce at high altitude. Similarly, and more relevant to today, resistant to diseases such as malaria or certain immunological responses we see against the coronavirus appear to be linked to segments of archaic DNA that entered our bodies thousands of years ago. There is much more to learn, for sure, but it seems that we owe our extinct ancient cousins a great deal. And personally, I do owe the ERC a great deal for allowing me to pursue such a research initiative. And it's been an amazing journey. And thank you.
Thanks, Katerina. Thanks again so much for being with us, and thanks for sharing that example of how understanding our history can actually help us to understand and deal with some of the challenges we're facing today. If I could turn now to Roberto, who's joining us from Italy. Good morning, Roberto.
Morning.
You're a computer scientist and language specialist based at the Sapienza University in Rome. And I think when you began your journey of exploration into language and artificial intelligence, you didn't expect to go into business. But nevertheless, some of the scientific discoveries you've made have found commercial applications. And I was wondering, could you tell us what you think that tells us about the relationship between frontier research and innovation?
Thanks, Tony. Hi all. It came as a surprise that our groundbreaking research soon opened up enormous opportunities, not only for students and researchers in Rome, but also in the business world. We proudly founded a successful spin-off company, Babelscape, with the goal of helping other companies scale from one to many languages in their activities, which is an invaluable asset in the EU with its 24 official languages. And this was possible thanks to ERC funding, the visibility it provides and fostering of the excellence of our research. This tells us about the importance of investing ever more in research as a driving force for innovation and economic and societal growth. SMEs make up the fabric of Europe, but they struggle to compete against the giants. And they can benefit greatly from this relationship and be stronger in these competitive times. I like to say that cutting-edge research is like a fertilizer for your field in all senses of those words. So let me conclude by saying thanks ERC and thanks European Union. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Roberto. And you had some great metaphors there, frontier research and innovation being two sides of the same coin, but also frontier research being the fertilizer from which innovation and business can grow. So thanks very much for being here again and sharing some brief insights into your research and your work. Now I'll turn to our third guest from this series of 15 ways the ERC transformed science. It's Ulo Niinimets from Estonia. Ulo, you're an environmental scientist and a biologist. You're based at the Estonian University of Life Sciences in Tartu. And Ulo, you're one of a relatively small group of ERC grantees, it has to be said, based in Estonia. So could I ask you, what did it mean for your research to win an ERC advanced grant a few years ago? And perhaps what advice could you share for potential applicants from those countries that are currently a bit less well represented amongst the community of ERC grantees?
Thank you, Tony. It's a great honor to be here and share with you some of my experience. First of all, I guess when we think about ERC grants, and it has to have ideas that stands out. And for example, my ERC grant studied how stressed plants affect ambient air and climate. I guess that everybody knows that the plants are very important for global change because they modify the level of the greenhouse gas CO2. On the other hand, they become stressed under climate change. And what we discovered is that stress plants are a very large source of trace gases that can strongly impact air quality and climate. So this is a global finding that needs consideration in our efforts to cope with climate change. I'd say that my ERC grant has put Estonia and Europe in the center of world map. This shows that even if you come from a new and small member state, you can make a difference. Of course, first thing to get an ERC grant is to apply, and this is something what I would really encourage is people from countries like Estonia that don't be hesitant. On the other hand, this saying it's not a lottery. The things are exceptionally competitive, and when you think about an ERC grant, it might not be enough if you are at the top of your country. And it's very important to be collaborative and have a strong network of researchers you collaborate with. During my career, I have tried to learn from the very best in the field and worked abroad as a PhD student, postdoc, and professor in Germany, Belgium, Italy, United States, developing a worldwide network of collaborations. If you think of my country, Estonia, then it's not necessarily the most attractive place to work. But we have made it there, and this would have not been possible without ERC. So thank you, ERC, very much.
Thanks to you, Ulo, and thanks for that encouraging message for anybody who might be considering applying for an ERC grant. So thanks very much again to Katerina, Roberto, and Ulo for joining us this morning, and thanks very much for sharing your stories. And as I said, the full details are available on our website, including the podcast interviews and the written interviews. So thanks again, and all the best with your future endeavors.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
So now it's time for me to introduce Maria Gabriel, the European Commissioner for Innovation, Research, Culture, Education and Youth. So Commissioner Gabriel, welcome, and thank you so much for being with us here this morning.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Yannick.
Could I invite you to share your impressions of the ERC, its achievements to date? And I think you're going to reveal the news we've all been waiting to hear, which is the identity of the ERC's 10,000th grantee.
Of course, we are all here for this moment of celebration. And allow me to start by saying first, dear Professor Bourguignon, dear researchers, ladies and gentlemen, today is a special day for Europe. It's a special day for our scientific community, and it is a special day for the European Research Council. And I'm really, really very pleased to take part in today's celebration. I would like also to recall that in only 14 years, the European Research Council has become a powerhouse of science. European Research Council is recognized as the best in the world in the way it supports for fundamental research. And yes, we all talk today that it has enabled 10,000 top researchers to pursue groundbreaking ideas across all fields of science. And in just a moment, we'll have the honor to announce the identity of the 10,000th ERC grantee. But let's take a moment together to recall the importance of the European Research Council in the European research panorama. Indeed, by supporting research, frontier research, the ERC is driving the excellence of research in Europe. Research is knowledge, and scientific research generates new knowledge. This new knowledge improves human health and well-being, in particular health by improving the detection and treatment of diseases, but also the quality of our food and our interaction with the environment. And in that sense, the celebration of today is the opportunity to thank the 10,000 researchers funded all across Europe. And not only. Additionally, it's a moment of celebration for all the 70,000 postdocs, PhD students, and other working staff in research teams that have also been supported by the ERC. And to mark its importance for European research, European Research Council for us, it's a key component of the new Horizon Europe program. It is vital now to use the budget that we have at our disposal to continue to empower scientists to pursue their ideas, pushing the boundaries of human knowledge, because long-term investments in fundamental research have proven crucial in moments of crisis, such as the today global pandemic. Yes, I agree. Today we all mentioned now one of the examples that became a reference the last 1 year. Yes, we all know that we have now the mRNA technology because that was a lot of investment for many years. And it's not a hazard that Ugur Sahin received also a funding from the European Research Council. But it is precisely because we cannot anticipate all of the challenges we may face tomorrow that we must continue to invest in frontier research, investing in the best brains and giving them free rein, sparks breakthroughs and boosts innovation. We have just heard a few examples today with the 3 grantees featured in the new series of stories illustrating 15 ways that the ERC has transformed science. Thank you, Caterina. Thank you, Roberto, and thank you, Yulo, for your strong messages and for your vision and your experience that we shared with us. Because I must say that as European Commissioner, yes, I'm proud to say that with your experiences, with all our researchers, that's the next generation of top research talent for Europe. And I really congratulate first you for your efforts, but I also congratulate the European Research Council's effort to ensure that also 2/3 of its budget goes to younger researchers. And it is important really that young people with an excellent aptitude for science and research find attractive conditions, room and resources to develop their ambitions here in Europe. And with the Europeans' commitment to continue the success story that the ERC has proven to be, even more brilliant minds will be able to pursue their research ideas and to continue advancing the frontiers of science. This is the best investment in our future, whatever may come. And now it is time, and it is with great pride that I may announce the 10,000 ERC grantee. This is Professor Inga Bere. Welcome to the ERC family. Professor, you are a professor at the University of Bergen in Norway. Your research focuses on mathematical modeling applied to geothermal energy. And for this, you have been awarded an ERC Consolidator grant to further this important work. And I would like just to say a few words, because it's a great honor for me. With your research, you will help us move forward on the path to clean and sustainable energy for future generations. And it also shows how frontier research can fit into policy. Now, yes, as Europe, we committed to become a climate neutral continent by 2050. And yes, thanks to your research, Professor Bere, I'm sure that we'll be closer to make the best out of this clean resource of energy. And allow me here again to say that for me, dear Professor Bere, you are the symbol of this community of brilliant researchers, bright minds who are working so hard in their research, but at the same time, with this hard work, you are helping us as Europe to be at the forefront of the global scientific landscape. And moreover, I'm delighted that by celebrating Professor Bere, we can emphasize as well the key contribution of women in science that needs to be encouraged and acknowledged. And Professor, you are Norwegian. It highlights the importance of scientific cooperation between European Union, our neighbors, our international partners. And finally, let me thank you all the people that are working so hard to make the ERC such a success, and all the researchers for transcending science. Allow me to conclude with a short quote of Louis Pasteur: "Science knows no country, because knowledge belongs to humanity and is the torch which illuminates the world. Thank you very much for this extraordinary light that you are giving to us. Professor Bere and all the researchers, thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Gabriel. Thank you so much for those messages and for being with us this morning. And can I welcome also Inga, Professor Bere. It's very nice that you could join us from Bergen this morning. Inga, if it's okay,
thank you.
If it's okay, I'd like to ask you a few questions so we can get to know you a bit better and your work. So as the Commissioner mentioned, your research is related to the potential role of geothermal energy in a low-carbon future. And with climate change and the green transition very much on everybody's minds, there's the 2021 UN Climate Conference only a few months away. What difference do you hope that your research will make?
First, many thanks. And yes, to meet energy demands in a low-carbon future, geothermal energy is part of the portfolio of technologies we need to develop. In this context, it has some key attractive features. Geothermal plants have a small footprint on land, they have low emissions, and importantly, they can supply energy 24/7. In 2017, in Iceland, a well was drilled to a depth of more than 4,500 meters, reaching a temperature of more than 500 degrees. If we can produce from such higher temperature systems, as well as other unconventional resources, we can significantly enhance the utilization of geothermal energy. Now, in production of deep geothermal energy, water is injected into the hot reservoir for several purposes: to improve fluid circulation and to dispose and reuse produced geothermal water after its heat is extracted. Now, injection of water at depth affects fluid flow, thermal transport, and rock deformation, the slip, opening, and propagation of fractures, all of which interact. This process structure interaction, deep down in the Earth's crust, is crucial for the performance of geothermal reservoirs, and it's what I want to understand. The challenge is that when everything interacts, we cannot identify simple causality. Also, our access to the subsurface is limited, so we can only indirectly monitor what is going on. In my ERC project, we will set up systems of partial differential equations and variational inequalities describing the physics, using, among other tools, Newton's laws that President von der Leyen mentioned earlier in this event. By developing methods and software to solve these equations, we can simulate the effect of engineering operations. By this, we create a window to the subsurface that allow us to investigate various scenarios. What I find fascinating is that the mathematical models enable us to understand complex processes that otherwise would have been impossible to grasp. This is important to sustainably and safely expand the use of geothermal energy to a wider range of geological settings and to higher temperatures at depth. So yes, in this manner, I do think our research can contribute towards a low-carbon future. Thank you.
Thanks, Inga. Thanks for giving that fascinating glimpse into your work, and we will obviously be sharing more details about your research via the ERC website later on so people can find out a bit more. But can I ask you, coming from Norway and being based there, so Norway is a country which is not an EU member state, obviously, but it has associated to the EU's research framework programs. What did it mean for you personally to win a grant from the European Research Council?
Well, first, as a researcher, I must admit that I do feel more like a European than a Norwegian. My research is internationally oriented and I have strong collaborations and networks in Europe. Internationally, the ERC stands out in the landscape of research funding with its focus on scientific curiosity and thorough evaluation process. A grant from the ERC not only provides generous funding for our research, I also see it as a statement of trust from excellent peer scientists who have evaluated the proposal. This sets the standards high, but it also gives confidence to embark on challenging tasks that we have ahead of us. So indeed, this grant is important for me in very many ways.
Thanks for that. And we've heard previous speakers mentioning the importance of research careers and supporting those. What advice would you have for young people, young researchers who might be considering pursuing a career and might even be considering applying for an ERC grant?
Well, for those considering a research career in mathematics, technology, and science, I would just advise to go for it. For me, a career in academia has given me a job that I love. It has offered me opportunity to develop long-term goals for my research and work on interesting tasks in collaboration with great people. I've also been fortunate to have a lot of flexibility in managing a work-life balance, which is essential to me. As more concrete advice, I'd say think occasionally about what you can achieve on the long term, and importantly, also on how you like to work and how you can plan and engage so that both you and your colleagues and students can thrive. For me, developing a team around a new research topic at the University of Bergen, as well as building strong international networks, has been crucial. And this has also been part of a conscious process over many years.
Thanks, Inga. And then finally, I hear that you enjoy a challenge. So can I ask you what drives you, what motivates you and excites you in your daily work?
Well, I like working on complex problems where solutions are not readily available. And I find a lot of inspiration in just the joy of the daily work, that we don't fully know what's ahead of us, and this constant need to see difficult problems from new angles and gain new knowledge. The collaborative aspect of research is also a clear motivation. From the everyday research work with students, colleagues, and international collaborators, to the global communication across and within the scientific disciplines, and how we together create science.
Thanks so much, Inga. Thanks for joining us this morning, and welcome again to the growing family of 10,000 ERC grantees and counting. We're looking forward to hearing more about the results of your research as your project continues. So now let me turn back to Professor Bourguignon, the president of the ERC. Professor Bourguignon, Jean-Pierre, you've steered the ERC through the recent period of its 14-year history. What does it mean to you to have reached this important milestone of 10,000 grantees, and what impressions do you have after listening to all of the different interventions that we've heard this morning?
Thank you, Tony. Thank you all. Actually, it's indeed a great moment, as several people stressed. And today we have heard the strong messages from European political leaders, President of the European Parliament, the President of the European Commission, Minister Manuel Heitor, in representing the Portuguese presidency, and of course, Mr. Bougeret, who has been instrumental in supporting the ERC in this very tough battle for the budget, but also Horizon Europe more broadly. And of course, Commissioner Maria Gabriel, with whom I'm collaborating really on very closely, and I'm very thankful for her presence today. So I think it's very important to hear political leaders supporting science, and hearing an endorsement of frontier science, as we heard today, means a lot to European researchers. Today, we have been also inspired, of course, by passionate scientists who break new ground. And so, in particular, it's a great opportunity for me to warmly congratulate Professor Inga Behre. I'm very pleased to welcome you to the ERC family, and where you're joining already a large group of people, but I'm sure you will feel comfortable with them. And actually, I want to really tell all the grantees, they really have all reasons to speak up, considering what they have achieved. Science is a public good, and it benefits people wherever they are. And it is a fact that many of the ideas put forward by ERC grantees have come to fruition, resulting in many breakthroughs and advances, as it has been stressed. And it does help Europe to be attractive and truly at the scientific forefront. And of course, it was also said, but I really want to stress again how crucial it is for Europe's future in this very competitive world we live in. Without frontier research, we would not be where we are today. And it is key to make it possible for humanity to progress further. We thank the EU for having had persistently the wisdom to stick to the ambition of an ERC by scientists for scientists. That is to let its governing body, the Scientific Council, run the ERC independently and use scientific quality as the only selection criterion in its competitions covering all fields. This combination has been the key to the ERC's success. As scientists, we have a special responsibility to make this success last. This requires keeping the winning formula alive and to build on the trust of the scientific community that the ERC has won through mutual respect. Still, we need to face the reality. A European initiative alone can have an impact, as the ERC did through the numerous opportunities it has created for scientists, in particular young ones. Still, most of the support to research comes at national level through public and private sources. That's why I urge governments to keep investing in frontier research. Do not turn only to top-down and short-term actions, focusing on quick fixes to the challenges we face. Adopting a long view, as is stressed by many people, in particular Commissioner Gabriel, is essential for the success of ERC to last. Scientists must have the freedom to develop their vision and the means to pursue their ideas. The ERC will always keep this in mind and fight for this to happen. Thank you all for this your wonderful contribution to this very special moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean-Pierre. And before we end this ceremony, we just have a couple of minutes left to take a brief look again at the online conversation. We've been inviting our grantees, their host institutions and others to share their stories using the ERC 10K Grantees hashtag. And we can just have a quick look at some of the messages that have been posted in the run-up to today's celebration and also during the course of the ceremony. So let's just to take a brief moment to flash up some of these messages. And we would encourage you, please, to carry on sharing your stories on social media as we move ahead from this ceremony during the coming weeks using the ERC 10K Grantees hashtag. It's really great to hear from our grantees, their host institutions, all of these stories of this research that is being made possible thanks to ERC grants. So to conclude, I invite you all to take a look at the ERC's website to find out more about our funding schemes and the great work being carried out by our grantees. Thanks again to all of you for tuning in this morning. Thanks to our speakers. And we hope that you've enjoyed the celebrations. But for now, goodbye and stay safe and healthy.